Growing up, I unfortunately never got the opportunity to leave the country. And not because of money, but because I'm pretty sure my dad hates flying. And you can't really drive across any of the oceans. So when we were asked, what do you love and what do you want? I had absolutely no idea. And I know that that sounds cliche, but it was true. I mean, what do I love? Well, I love a lot of things. What do I want? Well, I want a lot of things. And what am I talented at? Well, that depends on what you consider a talent. I'd come to the conclusion that I wasn't really passionate about a lot of things. But it wasn't until I sat there during my senior solo, crying, freezing, and dying a little on the inside, that I realized I hated nature. But I learned that I love people. And I learned that I need people in my life and that I really can't be alone. I discovered my love for how people's backgrounds reflect the way that they interact with others and how their culture shapes who they are. Have you ever gone to somebody's house and wondered, why do they interact with their family that way? Or why does it smell like this? Or what are they doing? Well, that's all affected by the way that they were raised. That's affected by the culture they were brought up in. No matter who you are, or who your ancestors are, you have unique characteristics that make you and your family unique. Everyone has something that makes them stand out from others, and God has made us each individually. He made all these beautiful people in diverse cultures, and He wants us to spread them with one another. So whether that be music, food, or traditions, we all are different, but yet we still have so many similarities. Welcome to my capstone, and I know that the title is It's a Small World After All, but my capstone is on so much more than just cultures. It is on my love for people and how people can affect me and how relationship is important. And when I say culture, I don't want you to think of the typical idea of culture, not like cancel culture, black culture, all that. No, it's just, like I said, how people's backgrounds reflect who they are. Over the course of this year, I have started to learn what it means to love others from around the world. So I've also learned the challenges that I will face as I plan my future career and studying abroad. I interviewed 5 people, and each of them have joined an organization or they've studied abroad. And whether that be a month or 3 years, each of them has discovered a love and a passion for travel and seeing the world in a unique and special way. They presented me with all the challenges that I will face. My friend Leah from Germany expressed that the culture shock that she experienced coming to America was like no other. She expected Americans to be very open arms and inviting. But it turns out when she got here, she learned how individualized and disconnected we were. She said that it was hard to communicate with us because we were so, quote, cliquey and not open. And although people do encounter people that are welcoming, most of us seem to be negligent of that. She, as well as other individuals I interviewed, said that in order to connect with somebody, you have to step out of your comfort zone. So, obviously, it's not easy to step out of your comfort zone, or else everybody would be like friends with everyone. Miss Lauren Reif, a teacher here at Front Range, she's a 6th grade teacher, studied abroad in Scotland and England, and she said, quote, "The hardest thing about living and communicating in a foreign country was leaving my comfort zone. As in a new culture with no Christians, I knew only one. My closest friend was in Italy, and back then there was little to no way of communicating with somebody quickly. I was left to my own accord." Now, I'm not a stranger to putting myself out there, but the idea of doing that in a completely different country and a completely different culture is absolutely terrifying. I had learned that to truly grasp the full experience of me traveling abroad, I will need to not only be able to put myself out of my comfort zone, but help others do the same. Because I want to understand people, and I want to understand where they're coming from. I want to understand how their culture shapes who they are. And I think that it's important for us to learn about who they are. I think that studying abroad in a mission organization is the perfect way to do that. To not only learn about a culture, but to immerse yourself in the day-to-day life of those living there. And it won't be easy, but as long as you can do that, that's one step closer to meeting somebody new that could potentially change your life. Along with stepping out of your comfort zone, another lesson that I learned was how to properly and effectively communicate. So, everybody in different cultures, we all communicate different, whether that be facial expressions or hand gestures or just the way we talk. Aaron Myers, a professor at Instead, one of the leading international business schools, said, quote, "Communicating effectively is a valuable tool for understanding how various cultures convey messages." She also said, "The skills involved in being an effective communicator vary from culture to culture," end quote. So you have to be willing to understand people, and you have to be willing to understand why they do certain things. you have to understand whether they are from a high context or a low context culture. And I'll get to that in just a moment. And you have to understand, are facial expressions important? Are they rude? Are they nice? And body language. So what is a high context culture? A high context culture is saying something, saying it again, and then saying it one more time. So this happens in Western countries typically. We need a step-by-step process, a specific list, an ABC, and then bullet points under each thing. So this happens because we have to be as precise and clear as possible. Whereas in Eastern countries, they are a low context culture, and they do a thing called reading the air, which is when you give a broad statement and somehow they can get just as much information, if not more, as the American. So an example is Japan. Another example is India. And so for my research project this year, I researched the Indian culture and how it how it compares to the American culture. And I did this because the book I read called The Culture Map by Aaron Meyer, this book gives us strategies on how to properly and effectively communicate and how to learn other cultures well and not in a rude way. She teaches you by giving specific examples from her life when she, for example, went to India and got directions from a man, but she didn't understand what reading the air was. So when he said it's by the hill, she didn't realize that it was a 12-minute walk, 2 lefts or right, a few stairs up, and then another left. But people in that culture would somehow understand that. So although this book is generally about international business, the first 4 to 5 chapters are very good lessons that I think everybody should learn about how to just go about talking to somebody in your day-to-day life or how to give a presentation in people from other cultures. So according to the college career and calling class we took last year for juniors, I am a 99.9% extrovert, which means I am very poor at doing this. I, for some reason, can't understand that when you enter a room and everybody's quiet and sad, I probably shouldn't make a joke, and I probably shouldn't bring a lot of joy at that time. But this book has taught me how to identify that in myself and how to go about fixing it, and just working on it in general. And I think that that's important because, one, we have to communicate effectively in other cultures and other countries, but we also need to learn how to effectively communicate with one another here. Another lesson that I learned when traveling is I have to maintain my faith. Now, that might sound obvious to have faith, but you don't realize that once you leave this community of people that you know here, you might think you're very centered on your faith, but the moment you step out into a different area where people don't have the same belief as you, that's when you start to fall out of faith. I learned that when you're gone for a large span of time, you need to keep your faith on your mind. So wherever I go, I want to be connected into a church or an organization so I can be connected with people and with God. One of the women I interviewed said, I got hungry for God's word when I was in Scotland in a way I hadn't expected, knowing what it was to be a Christian and how to live it up with people you don't know. Alicia Allen, another woman I interviewed, she did an organization called the World Race. That's an 11-month program where each month you go to a different country. And it's a Christian-based organization, so you help in any way you can, whether that be building a church or talking with people or just cleaning. And I think that that's an amazing way just to see the world in a different way, because most of them are third world countries that they go to, and you have to live like that. You have to live in buildings that aren't actually buildings, they're just kind of tents, and you have to learn how to not take a shower for a few weeks. So she also said, when I interviewed her, a very, very good thing, and it kind of just encapsulated my whole capstone in just a few words. She said, quote, I literally wish that every single person could do it, leave the country, because it's just so valuable. One, to get out of America, but then also, in general, to have such vast and different perspectives. And you learn how to connect with people, and you learn how to get out of your comfort zone, and you learn that just because you've done something a certain way doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it wrong, it just makes it different. And I think that the experiences of travel, one, would be amazing, but it's the people that you meet and the cultures that you learn that truly shape who you are. All the people I interviewed, they still talk to people they still talk to people they met there, whether that be 2 years or 15 years later. For one, she said, "Now I can confidently say I know Mexico." And I really thought I understood what it meant before to be a Mexican American, but I didn't. I didn't know until I'd gone to Mexico. I saw the people, I saw the culture, and I saw that this is the place where my ancestors came from. I saw how proud and how rich and how beautiful the culture was. I had such a new appreciation for the world in a way I hadn't expected. So I think that quote was very important because when you're abroad, you don't just learn things about other people, you learn things about yourself. You learn what makes you you, what makes what in your history makes you you, and you begin to appreciate the world in a different way. And I thought I was ready to go and appreciate the world. I had planned a 3-week-long trip to go to Barcelona and Norway, and I was so excited to compare the two different countries. But unfortunately, like the past couple of years in Capstone, there's a lot of, disappointment. So I didn't get to go on that trip, but that's okay. Along with that, another challenge I was faced with was I switched my capstone halfway through the year, from slowly studying abroad to my love for people. And that happened because as I started pursuing studying abroad, I was wondering, why do I want to study abroad? What is the reason that I want to do this? And then it hit me, that people, my love for people is the reason that I want to study abroad. I love people so much that I was so excited to leave what I know here and go somewhere else to meet them. But then with that, I was trying to figure out, how do I mold studying abroad into my love for people? Which is, pretty easy. But it was still hard to figure out experiences and interviews, because how do I interview somebody about a love for people? Like, that just doesn't make sense. People are going to see doctors and lawyers for their capstone. And I was like, can I just talk to somebody, But it's fine. So I absolutely love people. My me time consists of me sitting and talking to somebody. If I could be with someone every moment of my life, I would. Talking to people and sharing stories is my favorite thing to do. And if I can make one person smile, that brings me all the joy. The best compliment I've ever received was from my friend Rachel Redmond and Sophie Dudas. They told me that what they love most about me is that I make them feel seen. So wherever I go, whether that be another country or here in America, I want to make sure that people feel seen. I want to be that small bit of joy that they experience in their day. Capstone has brought many difficult and stressful things. I've experienced just about every emotion that you can think of. There's a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, and a lot of disappointment. But as much as I want to say that I hated it, I absolutely loved it. Frankly, my love for people is growing exponentially day by day as I research ways to connect with those God has put in my life and those I have yet to meet. I want to show people how they can relate to different cultures as well as my own, and I want them to understand how God wants us to do so as well. As I end my capstone, I would like to leave you with 4 lessons that you should take with you and apply to your life. 1, continue to put yourself out there. So it's not going to be easy, but if you can step out of your comfort zone and meet somebody new, that person could potentially change your life. Along with that, you have to be willing to tap into the discomfort. So that's also with your comfort zone. You have to be willing to step out of that, and it is going to be difficult. There's also going to be a lot of challenges that you're going to face when you plan to travel or just interact with other people. But you can get past that, and you can work through that. 3, in all things, maintain your faith. That's a pretty general one. Whether you're a Christian or you're not, you have to have faith in something, and so maintain that faith in the best way that you can. And 4, be that small bit of joy that someone experiences in their day, because you don't know what your small acknowledgement of them can mean to them. You don't understand how that could truly change their life. The Lord has called me to be a light in this world, and I am ready to take that challenge. I'm ready to see the world that He has given us, and I'm ready to meet the people that He has put here. And I want you all to remember that just because you've done something a certain way, it doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it wrong, it just makes it different. And difference shapes cultures, cultures shape people, and people shape you. Thank you.